exactly sure about a lot of things. There's a couple of burn marks on the sleeve. I ended up burning another hole in this jacket. I think it's shrunk. Howdy everybody, Rocket here, and today I want to talk about something very important when it comes to thru hiking. I want to talk about the clothing that is required, or that I believe is required, to successfully thru hike the Appalachian Trail. When I first started planning for the AT, I kind of had no idea what kind of clothing I would actually need and actually use on the trail. I'm going to talk to you about my finalized clothing list. If you are kind of on the fence of what you might need to successfully thru hike the AT, here is what I used. All right, let's get started, shall we? So I started the AT in early March 10th to be exact, of 2019. It was rainy, misty, and cold. We did have a couple of tolerable days, but for the most part, it was very cold at night and pretty chilly during the day. I packed a tank top and shorts, and that was not right. After I swapped out my tank top and shorts in Franklin for something a little bit better, I ended up with this just black, it was like a black yoga shirt. It's from Terra Mar, which I believe is like a yoga company. It is, I believe, polyester. Not exactly sure what it's made from. It also had like the little finger hole, the little thumb hole, so that way I could kind of pull them up and they would keep my hands a little warm. So I ended up buying Columbia leggings. These are 3/4 length leggings. So I would recommend starting in a long sleeve shirt and long leggings. And then I also had a fleece. This was like my mid layer that I wore when it was maybe too hot for my puffy, too cold for just my regular long sleeve shirt. I had the pleasure of getting a Melly from Melanzana Leadville, but this I would put on during the day. It kept me warm even if it was wet. Next, we can talk about cold weather gear, because that's something you're gonna be using right off the bat when you start the Appalachian Trail. Enter the Montbell Anorak Down. This thing is like 5.8 ounces. It's 900 FP. This puffy was super warm, and because of the weight of the puffy, I actually ended up carrying this the entire way. I also absolutely needed gloves in the beginning. Pretty much the first 300 miles were absolutely freezing in the mornings. I ended up getting these outdoor research gloves. They have like the Smart Touch fingertips, but they also have like some grips on the hand. They are not waterproof or anything, so you just had to be kind of cognizant of that. But I absolutely would recommend taking a pair of gloves, something insulated, something that's gonna keep your hands warm in those first crucial weeks on the Appalachian Trail. Next, I would like to talk about my sleep gear that I wore for the first half of the Appalachian Trail, I believe. I had a pair of Smart wool socks. These were solely for sleeping. I never wore them any other time other than bedtime. I have the Smart wool, what is that, a half zip 250 weight merino wool base layer. I wore this to sleep, kept me pretty dang warm. I also have the merino wool 250 weight base layer leggings. Next, I'd like to talk about my summer hiking outfit. Pretty much for the summer months, I wore a pair of shorts and a tank top and or t-shirt. These are a pair of Patagonia hiking shorts. I cut out the liner because I wear underwear, so for me that, just made no sense to have the extra layer in there. I would recommend something a little bit looser, something with some stretch, just to give you that extra comfort when you're, climbing up boulders. Then I ended up with this, polyester tank top that I got off Amazon. A lot of people had t-shirts, and I too hiked in a dry fit t-shirt for a while. I ended up switching to a tank top, selfishly and vainly. I just didn't want farmer's tans. Next, we can talk about rain gear, because it rains on the AT quite a bit. We'll talk about my rain pants, because I did not have these for very long. These were just the REI Essential Rain Pants. These puppies are about 7 ounces, and they have like a zip up leg and a tie waistband. I had these in the beginning, and I think I sent them home in Irwin, Tennessee. These were great in the beginning, especially when it was really cold and windy. For me, they didn't really seem that worth the wait, so I ended up sending them home. Most people I know did not keep a pair of rain pants. Next is my rain shell. This is the Montbell something or other. It is very light. I think this was also about 5 ounces. It had nice pit zips, which honestly, if I had to recommend a rain shell, I would recommend something with pit zips. You are gonna be sweaty, but you're also gonna wanna have that extra layer of protection. All right, we're wrapping things up here. Next, I wanna talk a little bit about headwear. Because all of my tops had hoods, I chose not to carry a beanie. But what I did carry was a buff. This buff is cut in half because I didn't see the need to have something like this long, so I cut it in half, and I would just kind of throw it on like earmuffs This probably isn't how I wore it, but I would just kind of throw it on like earmuffs and it would keep me nice and warm. And then in the summer, I would wear it to kind of keep sweat from falling out of my hair onto my face. So I kind of wore it up, you know, like a sweatband, a headband, you know, whatever, a sweatband. So I definitely would recommend the buff. A lot of people would wear it down here too, like, you know, to help keep them nice and warm. I think a lot of people, men and women alike, all carry a buff. So I would recommend cutting it in half, save yourself a little bit of weight, and you don't really need something like this long, you know? Next, I started getting some sunburn on my cheeks pretty early on, and I, you know, don't want to get wrinkles and or skin cancer. I bought this visor in Hot Springs, and I loved this thing. I wore it for the first half. Then eventually I switched it out for a hat. I cannot for the life of me find the hat, so just know that something with a bill to protect the sun, to keep the sun off of your face, I think is pretty important. Last but not least, let's talk about footwear, because your feet need to be dressed too. These are not the shoes that I wore on the trail, but I don't have my other shoes because they in the trash because they're stanky. I wore the Ultra Lone Peak 3.5s. I love those. I went through 2 pairs of those. Also the Ultra Temp 1.5s. These are the Ultra Temp 1.0s, and I wore 1.5 pairs of the Ultra Temp 1.5s. I love the Ultra Lone Peaks. They were a lot more durable than the Temp 1.5s, and I think for other trails that maybe aren't as rugged, the Temp 1.5s would be a great shoe, and I love them. They are very comfortable, very light. However, they were not very durable. I was poking holes through the toes and through the side within a couple 100 miles, which on the AT, your footwear is very important. Also, the Temp 1.5s didn't have as much traction as the Lone Peak 3.5s. I will try to pull up some pictures of the tread. The 3.5s are like gnarly. They're like a wheel. They could like grip onto stuff. So that was what I wore as far as shoes. And then last but not least, for me, one of the most important pieces of gear is your socks. I hiked the entire trail almost exclusively in 2 types of socks. If you follow my channel, you know I did a review on these socks. These are the From the Ground Up socks that I was gifted from the company and wore exclusively on the trail. Another type of sock that I wore on the trail is in Gingis. So I did wear the liners with the From the Ground Up socks because I developed my first blister at like mile 500. And it was a gnarly blister on this toe. It was so painful. I bawled while I limped the last 3 miles to camp. After that point, I figured I gotta figure out a way to make sure I don't ever get a blister again because could have derailed my thru hike, could have sent me home real early. These are the actual Gingi trail socks. So they're a lot thicker and they have the little toes, so they go on. Of course, I'm gonna put them on for you. And they give your toes each a little hug. All right, folks, so there you have it. That was my finalized clothing list of things I would recommend for you taking on your trek of the AT if you're not exactly sure what all you might need. I will go ahead and link my lighter pack gear list here down below if you'd like to check it out. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel. So for now, that's Rocket signing off.